The 2018 FIM Ice Speedway World Championship moves to Western Europe for the first time, leaving behind its Russian heartland and heading to Germany. The only capital city venue of the 2018 campaign is Berlin, where conditions will be significantly milder than the challenging ice of Togliatti last time out. Two of the series' permanent riders returned from injury for the second round of the 2018 season and the championship's sole visit to Russia. The Czech Republic's Jan Kotowski looked good on his return, scoring in each of his first four rides, but he was denied a place in the semi-finals by a single point that he conceded with a fall in Heat 70. Dina Valeev also missed out on the top 8 in his comeback meeting, needing a race victory from Heat 20 that he missed by just metres against his fellow countryman Sergei Karachintsev. Karachintsev progressed but was disqualified at the semi-final stage after a collision with the barriers whilst fighting with Martin Harri-Hiltunen over seconds. The Swede battled all weekend in Togliatti with flu symptoms and did well to make the semi-finals, but was unable to record a third successive grand final appearance, his fellow countryman Niklas Svensson progressing at his expense. Dmitry Koltikov meanwhile took a third consecutive victory, extending his winning run to 18 races undefeated, and with his closest rival from Astana Karachintsev dropping back, Koltikov opened a double-figure points lead for the first time. Martin Harri-Hiltunen dropped further ground in the series overall as he failed to make the semi-finals on day 2 in Togliatti. The Swede was unfortunate not to score the 2 points needed from his final ride to progress, mechanical retirement instead gifting Ove Ledström a place in the top 8. Dmitry Koltikov also suffered a rare setback, his first defeat in 21 rides, with home favourite Daniil Ivanov taking Heat 14. And Koltikov again dropped points in the final with an uncharacteristic error that allowed Dmitry Kometsevich to hit the front for a first win of the campaign in a photo finish. Despite his first defeat of the season, Dmitry Koltikov extended his championship lead to 16 points over a three-way battle developing over the remaining podium positions. Martin Harri-Hiltunen dropped back to 5th, but remained comfortably best of the rest. One of the ever-present risks of racing ice speedway is that the competitors leaning over and attacking full throttle are never very far away from a dramatic crash. And in the opening rounds of the 2018 campaign in particular, we've seen more than the usual number of incidents. In fact, before a wheel was even turned in the World Championship finals, Günther Bauer was already injured in the qualifiers. And with his condition worsening, he misses his first home event of the season. Veteran reserve Stefan Svensson comes in to replace him. This is probably my last year in the World Championship because Sweden have a lot of young, hungry riders coming through, so I will make space for them. To be honest, I didn't expect to ride quite so much this year as I am the reserve, but my job has been to act like a scout and be ready. It's never good when someone gets hurt, but I'm happy to be here and hope to get more chances. Although Günther Bauer misses out in Berlin, 3 of the other injured Western European competitors return, battered and bruised. Among them is home representative Hans Weber, who has the unfortunate statistic of more crashes to his name this season than any other rider. I had a really good feeling at the first round in Kazakhstan. It was a great track and my bikes felt really strong. But then I had a crash and did some muscle damage, particularly to my neck. That was just bad luck, but Togliatti was a different problem. I felt really well prepared after training on the frozen lakes in Sweden before the season, but the ice in Russia is always special and it was really bumpy. I think the European riders have a better chance in Western Europe. We have two great smooth indoor tracks to come, and here in Berlin we've had the German Championship already, which has given us time to adjust the suspension, which is really important. I think the most important factor in the many crashes this season has been the inexperience of the riders. We have a lot of young competitors this season. My crash in Astana, for example, in the semi-finals, Martin Hiltunen collided with me, ripped open my leg, and I still have problems because of it. Crashing is just a part of racing. To win, you need to be on the edge, but to find the edge, you have to go past it, and that means a crash. Some crashes are avoidable, but they're a part of motorsport. That's racing. The Horst Dom Ice Stadion is an historic ice speedway destination, having staged Berlin's first world final back in 1987 and appeared on the calendar on 13 occasions since. Despite the absence of 9 times German champion Günther Bauer, the local crowd has turned out in force for the third event of the 2018 campaign. Single change to the lineup with series reserve Stefan Svensson promoted into the lineup for a second time this season. In the absence of Günther Bauer, there will nonetheless be 2 German riders appearing in Berlin, with Max Niedermayer joining as the one-off wildcard. Sergei Karachintsev took a predictable checkered flag in Heat 1 despite coming all the way across from the outside gate, but the bigger surprise was behind him, where Jan Kotowski suffered a non-scoring first outing. The Czech scored well on his comeback from injury in Togliatti, but hadn't got off to a good start by contrast in Berlin. Smart first bend cutback from Niklas Svensson saw him into second place as Dmitry Koltkov and Martin Hiltunen steamed hard into turn 1 in Heat 2. Hiltunen's attempts to then get back on terms around the outside of the top bend saw him run too deep and collect the barriers, earning himself a disqualification from his opening outing. Dinar Valeev had a surprisingly understated start, losing second position to Harold Simon in Heat 3 and never really looking like recovering it. His fellow countryman Daniil Ivanov pulling clear up front for the win. Dmitry Kometsevich became the 4th Russian race winner as he took the checkered flag to complete the opening round, but to his credit, Franz Zorn was on the leader's pace. The Austrian back to something approaching his usual form after a disappointing start to the campaign. Saw him arrive in Berlin just 10th overall. A strong start for 4 of the 5 Russian riders and both Austrians inside the top 8 after the opening round. Disappointing first ride for both Dinar Valeev and Martin Hiltunen, provisionally outside of the qualification positions. Dmitry Koltkov maintained his maximum hopes with victory in Heat 5, a race more notable for the battle behind him. Franz Zorn held second position throughout, with Stefan Svensson next in line until the penultimate lap, with Harold Simon bringing himself back into contention. The Austrian veteran made a customary inside pass on Svensson on the final lap and was close to his fellow countryman Zorn at the flag as well, demonstrating his steadily improving form as he continues to recover from injury. After a non-scoring opening outing, Ove Ledstrom continued to struggle in his round 2 ride, dropping from second to the back in Heat 6. Jan Klotowski was the first through on the opening lap, having worked his way from the back to take second and his first points of the meeting. Then Niklas Svensson moved through on lap 2 for the consolation points. Dinar Valeev remained outside of the provisional qualification positions after a second successive single-point score for third place in Heat 7. The Russian was picked off by Hans Weber on lap 2, while Martin Harri-Hiltunen pulled clear for victory up front. The first meet-up between two Russian riders saw Dmitry Komentsevich come out the comfortable victor. Sergei Karachintsev, having missed the start, forced to work his way past Max Niedermayer on lap 2 before giving an unfruitful chase. Niedermayer continued to slip back into the clutches of Jasper Iwema at the rear of the field. The Dutchman made his way through impressively on the final lap for a first point of the meeting. A Heat 7 win for Martin Harri-Hiltunen had moved him back into the provisional qualification positions behind the 4 lead Russians and Austria's Franz Zorn. Dinar Valeev remained in the drop zone, but just a point behind the last of the top 8.
66.5 seconds.
Dinar Valeev's struggles continued despite a more competitive third ride as he suffered his first non-scoring outing in Heat 9. The Russian youngster had fought his way through brilliantly to second with a top bend move on Niklas and Stefan Svensson, but lost control coming off turn 2 on lap 2. That gave the father and son duo back the impetus in the battle. They recovered their positions at the half-race distance. Jasper Iwema continued to show marginally improved form in Berlin and was involved in another battle in his third ride of the day. He eventually lost out to Jan Klotowski for second, but held on ahead of Hans Weber for third and the single point. Harold Simon recorded his first race victory of the meeting in Heat 11, predictably beating 3 riders who had just 3 points between them coming into their third outings. Max Niedermayer came closest to providing an upset, registering his best score of the day in the process. Round 3 came to its conclusion with one of the best races of the meeting, a frantic squabble for second position between 3 real semi-final contenders. Daniil Ivanov played his part in the action with an excellent top bend on the opening lap, coming through from 4th to 1st in one forceful move. That left Franz Zorn in second position with Martin Harri-Hiltunen giving chase. The Swede pushed too hard and almost fell, dropping to the back in the process. Sergei Karachintsev now moved into a scoring position, but he showed no real signs of making up any further ground until Franz Zorn hit problems on lap 3. The Austrian did well to stay on after losing control coming off turn 2, but came to a near stop on the racing line, blocking the progress of Martin Harri-Hiltunen, who'd been trying to recover against Karachintsev. The Russian made use of the inside ground to move through for a somewhat fortuitous second position, while Zorn recovered to third against Harri-Hiltunen. The second non-scoring ride for Sweden's Martin Harri-Hiltunen dropped him back outside of the all-important top 8. Niklas Svensson and Jan Klotowski moving up at his expense. On just 2 points from 3 rides, Dinar Valeev needed a significant improvement in his remaining outings. All 4 of the riders lining up for Heat 13 sat outside of the qualification positions coming into round 4 of the heats, so the race was critical for their semi-final aspirations. Martin Harri-Hiltunen made no mistake this time, a start-to-finish victory and second race win, with Stefan Svensson enjoying his best ride with seconds. Franz Zorn moved an important step closer to the semi-final stages with his first race win in Heat 14. Jan Klotowski keeping pace with him in second. Meanwhile, out at the back, Dinar Valeev held third ahead of Max Niedermayer until a mechanical retirement dropped him out of the points, confirming the Russians' elimination before the semi-finals.
Ja, das Ergebnis aus diesem Lauf. Platz 1, die Startnummer 100, Franz Zorn.
3 previously unbeaten riders lined up against one another in Heat 15, and it was Dmitry Koltukov who maintained his maximum run with a 4th victory, sweeping brilliantly across from the outside gate to hit the front. Hans Webber was involved in all of the Heat 16 action, which saw several position changes right the way through the order. Sergei Karachintsev unexpectedly dropped to the back on the opening lap and never featured, struggling with injury. Hans Webber looked initially set to capitalise, showing some good pace from second and overhauling Niklas Svensson for the lead on lap 2. But just moments later, home hero Webber lost control, impeded Svensson and allowed Harold Simon to pass the pair. Webber attempted to fight back on the outside, but again got out of shape on the final turn and was left to trundle home for a consolation point, with Niklas Svensson coming through for seconds. The three lead Russians secured their progression in Heat 15, while Harold Simon was also guaranteed a top 8 place with a second consecutive victory. Meanwhile, 4 riders were already ruled out of contention with a round to spare, and Dina Valeev surprisingly among them. All 3 of the riders lining up alongside Daniil Ivanov for Heat 17 sat on 4 points and therefore each needed an unlikely victory to progress to the semi-finals. A hope they were denied as the Russian took a comfortable win. In the absence of injury victim Günther Bauer in Berlin, Max Niedermayer and Hans Webber battled it out for the title of Best German in Heat 17, with Webber coming out on top. Jan Klatowski surprised 2 of the top 5 in the championship with a strong start to Heat 18. The Czech was relegated gradually backwards. Dmitry Komitsevich quickly hit the front for a 4th race win. Although it took Martin Haare-Hiltunen a lap longer, the Swede too came through as Klatowski dropped to 3rd. The lap 2 pass proved critical, ultimately promoting Haare-Hiltunen into the qualification positions at his direct rival's expense. 2 of the bottom 3 in the point standings met in Heat 19, and it was Jimmy Olsen who finished his meeting with a scoring ride. Jasper Iverma relegated to the back on the final lap. Dmitry Koltakov completed a 5-ride maximum with victory in Heat 20 against 2 of his fellow countrymen. Dina Valeev finally putting in a top 2 finish in his final outing, and Sergei Karachintsev suffering a second successive non-scoring outing. Sergei Karachintsev remains above Jan Klatowski on countback thanks to his Heat 1 win, and the Czech misses out by a single position. Dina Valeev and both German riders are eliminated in the lower order. Semi-final 1, on paper the easier of the 2, where we're guaranteed that a Western European will progress. Dmitry Koltakov goes off the inside gate, unbeaten during the heats with a 5-ride maximum. Franz Zorn alongside him off gate 2. His second semi-final appearance of the season, made the final here in Berlin last year. Niklas Svensson off gate 3 in white, already once a finalist this season, consistent during the heats. And Martin Haare-Hiltunen completes the lineup off the outside gate, a semi-finalist on 8 points despite 2 non-scoring rides, now targeting a 3rd final of the campaign. So a reminder across the tapes, it's Dmitry Koltakov off 1, it's Franz Zorn off 2, Niklas Svensson off gate 3, and Martin Haare-Hiltunen off the outside. 2 Swedes, a Russian and an Austrian, with only 2 places available for qualification to the grand final on day 1 here in Berlin. Building up to the first of 2 semi-finals, takes rise. Not a good start from Martin Haare-Hiltunen. He's trapped on the outside line. It's Dmitry Koltakov who hits the front. Niklas Svensson into 2nd place. He's already once been a finalist in 2018, bidding for a 2nd. Holding down the inside line on the top turn, but challenged now by Franz Zorn. And the Austrian bundles through down the home straight and up into P2. Koltakov is away and gone as expected, leaving the 3 Western Europeans to battle it out over the remaining qualification position. Svensson up the inside of Zorn, coming off turn number 2, comes through to 2nd, impedes Zorn though on the top turn, and here comes Martin Haare-Hiltunen, 4th to 2nd in a matter of 2 turns. Sensational ride from him. Svensson tries to cut back off the 2nd bend, but Haare-Hiltunen has the racing line and the pace. Svensson again challenging on the inside. He's getting a rougher ride though down low on the rougher ice. Haare-Hiltunen going up wider for a smoother run. trying to use the portions of ice least frequented during this event. Svensson, as you can see, out of shape, coming down the back straight. One final attempt from Svensson in the race for second position. Harri Hiltunen a little bit out of control coming off turn 4, but just about holds on. Excellent racing there from positions 2 to 4. Each of the 3 contenders were in a provisional qualification position at one stage during that race, but in the end it's Martin Harri Hiltunen who comes through to qualify alongside Dmitry Koltikov. 3 riders only for semi-final 2 after the withdrawal of Sergei Karachintsev, the former European champion, visibly struggling with injury in his last 2 programme rides. So he's out of it, leaving us with only 3 riders. Dmitry Komet-Savic, just 1 point drop from 5 rides. Daniil Ivanov, beaten by Komet-Savic in the heats. Doesn't need to worry too much about the rider on his inside here. Beating Harold Simon alongside him will be enough for him to progress to the final. Harold Simon then off gate 3, 2 race victories during the heats. Certainly hasn't shown many signs of challenging the Russians this season, and it would be a pretty major surprise if he beats either in this one. Komet-Savic, Ivanov and Simon. Without the withdrawn Sergei Karachintsev for semi-final number 2. The favourites of the 2 inside start positions, the Russians. Simon cutting straight back to the inside. It's Komet-Savic who gets there first, but he hits a rut around turns 1 and 2. For a moment off the second bend, I thought Simon might be able to get alongside. But it's Ivanov and Komet-Savic who are up in the provisional qualification positions, and broadly as you would have expected. Daniil Ivanov 13 points during the heats, Dmitry Komet-Savic 14 points during the heats. Harold Simon by contrast just 9. He will add the single points here. The race is out front with Komet-Savic trying to pick away past Daniil Ivanov. Remember that points scored in every race during the season count towards the championship overall. But it looks as though Daniil Ivanov will hold on for the 3 race points. Komet-Savic dropping back, coming off turn 2. And it's Daniil Ivanov entering the final lap with some comfort now. Dmitry Komet-Savic in second, both former world champions, of course. They really have a tough task in 2018 to try and recover drop points against Dmitry Koltikov, who's been the dominant force in this 2018 campaign. Ivanov over the line in first position then, Dmitry Komet-Savic in second. A long old wait before Harold Simon comes over the line in third. It is the Austrian who is eliminated. Somewhat predictable, that one, semi-final number 2 after the drama of semi-final 1. So 4 of the top 5 in the championship standings lining up for the final. The same quartet who made it through on day 2 in Astana. Dmitry Koltikov, double winner here last year, unbeaten from 6 rides so far. Daniil Ivanov, last a winner here in 2010. Dmitry Komet-Savic, one of 2 2016 Berlin winners. And Martin Harri Hiltunen, undoubtedly an outsider against 3 world champions, targeting the 2nd podium finish of his short world championship career. Koltikov, Ivanov, Komet-Savic and Harri Hiltunen for the final. Koltikov with the dominant start, Komet-Savic is there with him, but Komet-Savic is forced wide coming off turn number 2. Martin Harri Hiltunen, meanwhile, is side by side with Daniil Ivanov and breezes past the Russian for 3rd position. And Harri Hiltunen going for the cutback off turn number 4, trying to get alongside Komet-Savic for 2nd. No doubting the ambition of young Martin Harri Hiltunen. And he actually impeded Daniil Ivanov at the end of that first lap with that cutback manoeuvre right across the path of Ivanov, who was trying to make an overtake. And again, Harri Hiltunen running narrow coming off turn 4. Ivanov doesn't know which way to go to try and pass Harri Hiltunen. Koltikov is gone out in front. He will be the winner surely here in Berlin, barring mechanical problems. Komet-Savic an isolated 2nd position. The battle is all on out at the back between Harri Hiltunen and Daniil Ivanov. And Harri Hiltunen's doing a great job at the moment to hold back Daniil Ivanov. Into the closing stages now. Dmitry Koltikov looking comfortable for yet another win, and it's going to be done with a maximum score. Things closing up for 3rd position. Drag race down to the line. That is unbelievably close between Martin Harri Hiltunen and Daniil Ivanov over the last of the podium positions, the bronze medal. But it is Martin Harri Hiltunen who just about holds on. Victory for Dmitry Koltikov yet again, ahead of Dmitry Komet-Savic in 2nd, and it's Martin Harri Hiltunen who gets the verdict for the single point and a place on the podium. Just 3 drop points from Dmitry Komet-Savic with that 2nd place, and that enables him to create a 12-point gap behind him in the series overall. But the day belongs to maximum man Dmitry Koltikov.
50, Harald Simon, 1 point.
Ja, vi har varit
It was a tough final. I almost can't remember it. Once the starting tape goes up, it's so intense it all just goes blank. Just after the finish line, my fuel pipe came loose, so I must admit I've been really lucky today. Of course, Dmitry rode very well today. He seems to get the most out of the ice when it's really hard. But we'll see how it goes tomorrow. Hopefully, we will do better. The race was good for me today. Everything worked well right from the beginning. Mechanically, my condition. And with a maximum score, I have to be very happy with the result. So thanks to my team and everyone who supported me. An excellent third place moves Martin Hilton 4 points closer to Sergei Karachintsev in fourth, whilst keeping his gap to the rest of the pack, led by Harold Simon and Franz Zorn. Meanwhile, with a fourth win in 5 rounds and a third with a maximum score, Dmitry Koltykov moves 21 points clear at the season's halfway mark. It's time for the half-term report in the 2018 FIM Ice Speedway World Championship. After the 5th of 10 meetings in the series and with the respective duels becoming gradually clearer. Swedish style. 3 separate fights have emerged within the top 8 in the championship, and 2 of them involve Swedish youngsters. Niklas Svensson made the top 4 for the first time in Togliatti and sits directly behind Harold Simon and Franz Zorn for 6th overall. I had some mechanical problems at the start of the season, but I kept my head up. I was a little bit lucky with my final in Togliatti, and it will be hard to make another. But I've seen I have a chance, and I will try my best. If I keep scoring points in every heat, I think I can take 6th position in the championship, but I need to avoid exclusions and crashes and be more consistent from now on. Dream debut! Martin Hilton earned back-to-back final appearances on his debut in Astana, and with a second podium return on day 1 in Berlin, is right in the mix for a place in the top 4 and in contention with the dominant Russians. I didn't expect this at all. It's all gone so well. I did have a bit of a dip in Togliatti, but yesterday it was going better and better. I hope to keep my championship place and take some points from the Russians, but they're far more consistent than I am. Still, you should never say never. The man to beat, Dmitry Koltykov, has been almost untouchable. 3 maximum scores in 5 meetings, just 4 drop points in 35 rides. Only a disaster in the second half of the campaign could now deny him the crown. I have to be satisfied with how the season has gone so far. I've scored what I can in each race, and I have a good advantage in the championship. When you prepare all summer, are mentally, mechanically and physically fit to do the job, with a target in your mind, you just have to keep pressing on and do your best. Getting those results then helps you to maintain your confidence. Nikolai Krasnikov is the target. It will be hard to beat his results, but let's see what the future brings.
106, der Titelverteidiger Dmitry Koltykov aus Russland. From Russia, Dmitry Koltykov. Congratulations to him.
The opening day in Berlin saw gaps enlarged between 3 distinct battles that have emerged this season. The closest of them at the halfway mark in the 2018 campaign is for 6th, with 7 riders separated by just 14 points. Attempting to make ground in that fight is Dinar Valeev, who was expected to charge back through the standings after returning from injury in Togliatti, but who struggled to just 4 points on the opening day of the Western European calendar. Yesterday I had some real problems with the bikes, but we discovered during the meeting what the cause was. So last night and this morning we've put everything right, rebuilt the bikes, so I hope it will be better today. One of the riders Valleev will need to overhaul in the remainder of this campaign is Franz Zorn. 7 points and 3 places above him, having recorded his first double-figure score of the season on day 1 in Berlin. Yesterday was a good day for us because in Russia it wasn't good at all. Travelling to Kazakhstan, 5,400 kilometres in the van completely destroyed my body, and I was left at only 60% fitness. I have focused on my recovery for Berlin and I'm back to 90%, so I'm happy with yesterday, even if I missed the final. Meanwhile, after recording his lowest score of the season so far on the opening day in Berlin, Sergei Karachintsev has dropped 31 points back from championship leader Dmitry Koltsikov in the last 3 meetings. Now looks more likely to drop back into a fight with Martin Harri-Hiltunen over 5th. I have an old foot injury that is causing me some problems, and that was the issue yesterday. At the moment, I don't really know what impact that will have today or going forward. After his 4th place finish in the final on day 1, Daniil Ivanov returned to winning ways as the victor in the opening race of day 2. Behind him, Jimmy Olsen took a good 2nd position, having held off the early attentions of his fellow countryman Niklas Svensson, who claimed 3rd. Both of Germany's representatives went through the opening round of heats without scoring as, after Max Niedermayer's non-score in Heat 1, Hans Weber suffered a nasty crash in Heat 2. Sergei Karachintsev took the whole shot from the inside gate in both stagings, but at the second time of asking, Dmitry Komitsevich came through for the checkered flag. Fans looked set for a race of real excitement in Heat 3 with all 4 riders on the pace, until early leader Ove Ledstrom suffered a mechanical failure on the racing line, leaving Jan Klotowski with nowhere to go but to collect him. The Swede was disqualified from the race, while Jan Klotowski bravely picked himself up to win the rerun, Franz Zorn picking off Stefan Svensson for 2nd place. After day 1 disappointment and optimism that his mechanical problems were resolved, Dinor Valleev suffered a slow start with a non-scoring first outing on day 2. The Russian was overhauled by Harold Simon for the consolation points in Heat 4. Day 1 semi-finalist Harold Simon sat outside of the provisional qualification positions after round 1 and a tough draw in Heat 4, with Dinor Valleev, the other big name, outside of the top 8. With Ove Ledstrom withdrawn following his round 1 crash and Sergei Karachintsev ruled out through a recurrence of the injuries that kept him out of the semi-finals on day 1, Heat 5 had an unusual-looking lineup. Reserves Tobias Busch and Stefan Pletschacker were promoted into the field for the remainder of the meeting, but they only battled for 3rd in their opening rides. Up front, Harold Simon picked off Jimmy Olsen for a first race victory of the meeting after a mistake from the early leader. Martin Harri-Hiltunen provided the entertainment in Heat 6, oscillating from 1st to 3rd and then recovering in the closing laps. The Swede dropped to 2nd on the opening lap, behind Dmitry Komitsevich, and then behind Jan Klotowski into 3rd on lap 2. But from there, the fight back began. First the Czech slipping behind, and then Komitsevich falling prey to another giant-killing mission from Harri-Hiltunen. It had taken some time for the 2018 rookie to consolidate 2nd place. He was never too far behind the race leader, and a last-bend error from the 2016 champion saw him drop to a first defeat of the day. Jasper Iverma accrued his 2nd point of the meeting with 3rd position in Heat 7, relegating home wildcard Max Niedermayer to his 2nd successive last place, looking comfortable after the half-race distance. After a non-scoring ride first time out, Dinor Valleev's misery looked set to continue as he sat at the back from the start in Heat 8. but a good recovery saw him move up to second behind race winner Daniel Ivanov, first picking off Hans Weber on lap 1, and then carving away past Franz Zorn on lap 2. With just 2 points from 2 rides, Dinar Valeev was left with work to do once again, with a second successive day of spectating the semi-finals, otherwise a real prospect.
65.1 second time in heat number 8. Ja, was?
Dinar Valeev got his weekend back on track for a first race victory in 8 rides, an unexpected success in Heat 9. Dmitry Komitsevich had predictably hit the front, but just as he did against Martin Hara-Hiltonen in Heat 6, former world champion lost top spot on the final lap. Valeev hunted his rival down on the inside, showing far more pace than in previous outings, and forced his rival wide to take victory. Dmitry Koltskov extended his incredible maximum to a 10th successive ride in Berlin with victory in Heat 10 over Franz Zorn and Niklas Svensson. Martin Hara-Hiltonen made it back-to-back successes with a Heat 11 win, while behind him in the battle of 3 German riders Hans Weber and Max Niedermayer both notched their first points of the meeting, Weber overhauling Niedermayer for seconds. Jasper Iverma looked set for a 3rd successive scoring ride as he led Harold Simon at the half-race distance, but the Dutchman continues to suffer through rough ice in his debut season, and he conceded the place to the veteran on lap 3. Daniel Ivanov and Dmitry Komitsevich both remained unbeaten ahead of their Heat 16 matchup. The fight for the semi-final places appeared to be settling down, with the favourites holding provisional top 8 places.
Und zwar wurde in der ersten Kurve ein Schlüssel gefunden mit einem blau-weißen. Und es laufen die 2 Minuten der Führung.
Martin Hara-Hiltonen put in an excellent ride in Heat 13 to notch a 3rd successive victory and secure his place in the semi-finals for a 2nd consecutive day. The Swede missed the start off gate 3, but chased down and passed Jimmy Olsen for 2nd within the space of a lap and hit the front. Another great ride from Hara-Hiltonen. His pass on Franz Zorn, leaving the Austrian without a race win from his first 4 outings on day 2. An entertaining Heat 14 saw 3 riders in contention for the victory, only reserve Stefan Pletschak some way adrift. Niklas Svensson, on just 2 points from his opening 3 rides, made the start to keep his fading hopes of a semi-final place alive. Behind him, Stefan Svensson did well to pass Harold Simon and make it a father and son 1-2 up front, but a Lars Bendera from Niklas saw him drop back, impede Stefan, and allow Harold Simon through for a somewhat fortuitous 2nd race victory of the day. Kwiatkowski moved a step closer to the semi-finals with a runner-up position in Heat 15 after a lap 1 pass on Max Niedermayer, leaving himself on 8 points from 4 rides and matching his best score of the season so far. The top 3 in the world met in Heat 16, 2 of them unbeaten from their opening 3 rides, but Dmitry Koltskov took the race victory to maintain his maximum hopes and extend his overall championship lead. Koltskov had to work hard to pass first Dmitry Komitsevich and then Daniel Ivanov to hit the front, but within 2 laps the reigning champion was back on top and untroubled on his way to a 4th straight win. Only the top three, with just 2 drop points between them from 4 rides each, could be mathematically certain of their transfer to the semi-finals ahead of the final round of heats. Meanwhile, Stefan Svensson and Jimmy Olsen were the only 2 riders outside of the top 8, still in contention for progression. Tied on 11 points each and battling for one of 2 available top seeding positions for the semi-finals, Martin Hiltonen and Daniel Ivanov contested Heat 17. The Swede did well to command the opening lap and block out the former world champion initially, but Ivanov was not to be denied. Meanwhile, Stefan Svensson, back in 3rd, was unable to secure the 2 points needed to keep his semi-final hopes alive. Niklas Svensson was in the thick of the action once again in a Heat 18 that lined up 3 of the meeting's lowest scorers. A turn 2 error left him on the back foot against Jasper Iverma, the Dutchman capitalising to move second. Svensson fought back on lap 2 but never looked comfortable, and Iverma put in one of his best rides of the season to recover the runner-up position and finish on a 4-point tally, the best of his World Championship career so far. Frans Zorn needed 2 points from Heat 19 to be certain of his place in the semi-finals. Jimmy Olsen, due out in Heat 20, still mathematically in contention. Instead, the Austrian was left to watch the final heat race nervously, having dropped alarmingly backwards in his final programmed ride. Harold Simon continued to demonstrate his consistency as he moved through on the inside around the opening lap and sped away. But the greater surprise was Zorn giving up 3rd on the final lap to underperformer Max Niedermeyer. Jimmy Olsen could now dump Frans Zorn out of the competition with 2 points or more in Heat 20. But the Swedish youngster missed his opportunity as he could only manage 3rd after a near fall for Jan Klatowski. The Czech was already assured of his semi-final place thanks to his earlier scoring efforts.
So, die Vorrunde hat dann wieder mal den Maximum
Stefan Svensson's wait for a first semi-final appearance in 2018 continues as he misses out on countback as a result of his Heat 3 defeat to Frans Zorn, the Austrian progressing at his expense.
Number 33, Johan Weber, 2 points. Third, number 81, Jimmy, 1 point, no point for number 16.
The easier of the 2 semi-finals from which to progress, and we could have an interesting battle for second position here. The inside gate in red, Dmitry Koltskov. It would be a major shock if he dropped even a point in this lineup, having gone 12 rides unbeaten this weekend. Gate 2 in blue, Dinar Valeev. Unconvincing here in Berlin, but brings 3 successive wins into the semi-final stages. Gate 3 in white, Harold Simon beat Valeev back in Heat 4 on his way to a double-figure heat total. And Jan Klatowski, at the back last time out, the Czech, really needs to make a start in this one. Koltskov on 15, Valeev on 11, Simon on 10, and Klatowski on 8. The favourites of the 2 inside start positions, the 2 Russians, for semi-final number 1. Only 2 of these riders then can progress to the grand final on day 2. Not a good start at all from Harold Simon off gate 3. Klatowski's away better than him, but the Czech bobbles on the way to the first turn and goes to the back. It's the 2 Russians who've hit the front predictably. Koltskov leading the way, Dinar Valeev in second position. Memories of a disappointing first day already fading for him. The youngster's back on it on day 2 here in Berlin. Still a separate race going on for 3rd position. Harold Simon bobbling around turns 1 and 2, and around him flies Jan Klatowski to move into the 3rd place position and hold on for a provisional single point. Harold Simon hasn't quite given up on his favoured inside line, but Jan Klatowski looks the smoother of the 2. Small error there coming off the second bend from Dinar Valeev, but there's little doubt about who is going to progress. Heading in towards the final lap now in semi-final number 1 on this second day here in Berlin. It's going to be Dmitry Koltskov, and Dinar Valeev will join him in the top 4, putting to bed memories of a disappointing start to this season. He missed the opening round, remember, through injury. Returned with a place in the final last time out, and he's going to make a second final appearance of the year. Dinar Valeev with a celebration over the line. Dmitry Koltskov certainly predicted to progress, but there were still doubts as to whether Dinar Valeev would be able to move through. He's got the better of Harold Simon and Jan Klatowski, quite comfortable there. Klatowski getting the consolation point. Separate battle out at the back, but it's Koltskov and Valeev who move through. An extremely competitive lineup here for semi-final 2. Daniel Ivanov off the inside gate. 1 drop point to Koltskov, otherwise unbeaten in the heats. Martin Hiltonen, gate 2 in blue, qualified well with 13. He's been somewhat unfortunate to draw Ivanov and Kometsevic here. I suspect he would have preferred to meet Dinar Valeev in semi-final 1. Dmitry Kometsevic then off gate 3. Both of the riders on the inside of him in this one have beaten him in the heat. He can't afford to drop many more points now. He only scored 11 in the qualifying stages. Franz Zorn off the outside, the spoiler. The lowest ranked qualifier, only squeezed through on countback. There it is, the lineup in full. Semi-final number 2. Ivanov, Hiltonen, Kometsevic and Zorn. Edginess on the line from Martin Hiltonen. That hasn't helped the Swede. Ivanov is there alongside him into the first turn and moves him out. And Kometsevic will bundle past coming off the second bend as well. The two Russians in the 2 lead positions. Kometsevic, though, challenges wide, trying to get the better of Daniil Ivanov for the race lead. Doesn't open up an opportunity for Martin Hiltonen. He's now sweeping in wide around the outside towards the bales to see if he can build up his momentum. The top 3 have broken well clear. Franz Zorn on a different pace. He's dropped off in the latter stages of this meeting, it must be said. Kometsevic shaky there, coming off the top turn, and Hiltonen was almost alongside. And again, the Swede is bidding for the inside, and he's got his wheels in line nice and early there, coming off the second turn. And Hiltonen picks off Dmitry Kometsevic in semi-final 2. What can the Russian do about this to try and recover? He'll be desperate to make it through to the final. Only 11 points during the heat. Oh, slams into the side of Martin Hiltonen. The Swede left a bit of a gap, and you can't afford to give space to the Russians. Kometsevic fighting through. Oh, and disappointment compounded for Martin Hiltonen as he loses it on the final 2 turns and fails to score. A disappointing last lap for Martin Hiltonen, but once again providing the fight to the Russians in semi-final 2. The top 4 from the 2018 Russian Championship have made it through to the final then together here in Berlin. Dmitry Koltkov, 4 wins out of 5 so far this season. Daniil Ivanov, the winner of semi-final 2. Dinar Valeev making his 2nd grand final appearance of the season, chasing his first 2018 podium. And Dmitry Kometsevic looking short of his best today, it must be said, after finishing as runner-up last night. Koltkov off 1, Ivanov off 2, Valeev off 3, Kometsevic off the outside. 3 riders with World Championship titles to their name, and the up-and-coming Dinar Valeev. We are underway for the final. A level break as you'd expect, but it's inside and out who've made it best. Ivanov cutting back to the inside off the second turn, side by side for second position. Kometsevic boulder into turn 3, and Valeev's got a decent run on Ivanov as well. It's blocked out at the end of the opening lap. Koltkov bursting away. Ivanov is trying to fight with Kometsevic, but he's got to be careful. Each time Ivanov runs wide, he presents the inside line to Dinar Valeev, and Valeev has taken advantage of it there, coming off turn number 2. Valeev looking in slightly wider, coming into turn 3, tries a cutback on Kometsevic, bidding for second position here. Valeev hasn't given up on making further progress in this one, having already passed Ivanov. Here he goes on Kometsevic. Kometsevic looks over his shoulder, realises he's coming. He's going to go acute into the top turn. That gives Valeev the run coming off the bend though, and Valeev comes through for second position. He's certainly looking faster at the moment than Dmitry Kometsevic. Kometsevic tries the outside run, but nothing there, and Valeev almost slips off the back of the bike coming off turn 2, so he's getting plenty of traction here, the youngster, and he comes through for a place on the podium. There's no denying Dmitry Koltkov once again. This 2018 season is looking all too easy for him, and most of the fights we're seeing are for positions behind him. Valeev with an excellent ride there, through from 4th to 2nd, Ivanov missing out on the podium in 4th position. Despite missing out on the podium, though, Daniil Ivanov is the 2nd highest scorer on day 2 in Berlin, showing gradually improved consistency in 2018. But his wait to break into the top 2 in any round this season continues. It was a difficult day, firstly because of some problems with the engine and the bike. Then in my first heat, Hans Weber hit my foot, which made things harder for the rest of the day. But in the end, I've made the podium, so I'm happy about that.
Сейчас будет время восстановиться и подумать о следующем этапе.
I'm very happy to be back on the podium. Yesterday was a very hard day because the bike just wasn't running right. But after Sergei Karachintsev withdrew, he helped me with my tyres and parts. Then after that, I've been very happy with how it's gone. Everything was going well until my third ride, and then I had a snapped frame on my number one bike. On my second bike, it was a bit more difficult, but my team and mechanic got it to the same standard as my number one bike, so I managed to keep a maximum. Sergei Karachintsev's early withdrawal and Martin Harihiltonen's stunning heat performance means the battle for fourth position has closed up. 22 points clear now of a separate fight for sixth, to which Dinar Valeev has joined up. With his best score of 2018 so far, Valeev finally has something to cheer in a tough campaign. But Dmitry Koltkov's 25-point lead means he will be the happiest of all, with only 2 rounds remaining.
Ran und ich hab's